One of the most infamous chapters in the Conquest campaign is its endgame, Night Breaks Through. On this mission, we're on the same map as in Chapter 27, except that instead of working our way to the north to get to Corrin, we're working our way to the south to get to Takumi. This chapter throws all the absurdly powerful tactics of late-game Conquest at you all at once. Enemies with overlapping attack ranges, status staves like Freeze and the Hexing Rod, inevitable end on enemy ninjas, overlapping enfeeble maids and great masters who also have inevitable end, generals with wary fighter and either Papus or Aegis, and infinite reinforcements. Once we get past all that, we have to fight the strongest enemy in the game. Takumi in a guard stance with a clone of himself that can still dual strike because of his bold stance skill. Oh, and the whole time, Takumi will fire full screen lasers every other turn that damage units for 50% of their max HP if they're in his direct line of sight, making it easier for the rest of his soldiers to finish someone off. As a result, it's easy to get overwhelmed if you don't move quickly here. The problem is that the enemies make that really hard to do safely. They're bulky, they're mobile, they hit pretty hard, and there are a lot of them. There's a well-known strategy that uses shelter singing and multiple mounted staffers to set up a rescue chain that gets a boss killer down to Takumi in one turn. After all, the enemies can't hurt you if they never even get a phase to move. The thing is, that method is still pretty specific. It requires 3 out of the 4 rescue uses available in Conquest, 4 staffers with high mobility, and at least 1 entrap staff use or a pass unit to get past this general. But there is another way that requires a lot less preparation throughout your run if you're willing to take 2 extra turns to get it done. This is how I usually clear endgame, and all it requires, besides a boss killer, is 1 rescue use, 1 silence use, 1 staff user with high mobility and C-rank staves, 1 unit with lunge, and some way to get your boss killer 8 movement, which could be a mounted unit to carry them having a mount themselves, boots, or some combination of those. The only one of those that requires going out of your way is the silence staff, which you have to play at least part of the left-hand half of Chapter 25 to grab. Everything else is something you can get for free throughout the playthrough. Before we start the demonstration, I'll quickly scroll through the units I'm bringing, but I'll put a full team breakdown in the description. This save file is from the end of my most recent fast casual playthrough of Conquest, which is the same one I used for my video on Chapter 26 last week, so most everyone has the same loadout here as they did there. I also played this run with the average growths patch, so everyone has their expected stats for their class path, barring any stat boosters. Any unit that can hit 77 physical or 75 magical attack and 35 speed while using a brave weapon can serve as a Takumi killer, and so can Corrin using the Shadow Yato if they hit 78 attack and 35 speed. In my case, my Corrin is able to reach that benchmark, but for this demonstration I'll use Wyvern Lord Camilla Valoria. She's used an arm scroll to hit A-rank axes and unlock the Brave Axe, as well as 2 energy drops and a strength boon Corrin's silver statue to hit 39 raw strength. With that, a tonic, trample, strength +2, odd shaped, axe fair, Berserker Siegbert's no support pair up, and Laszlo's rallies, including fancy footwork, she's able to get to 77 physical attack, exactly enough to kill. I think I've rambled about the setup for long enough, so let's get into the clear.
My apologies.
For this strategy, our first order of business is to create some space to work with before setting up our boss kill on turn 3. To do that, you'll need a Rallier, in my case Laszlo, to buff up a strong enemy phase Juggernaut, in my case Maligned Felicia via Corrin marriage, and have them thin out the Oni chieftains on turn 1.
This could be trouble.
Camilla's rally is helpful here, but it isn't strictly needed since my Felicia's had 2 Seraph robes. Xander and Leo get ready to move into position to fight the Onmyoji on the eastern front next turn. Meanwhile, our boss killer will stay just out of enfeeble range on the left.
So strong. Glad to lend my support.
I'll protect you. Oh, can I help? I'm with you.
The board will look a little different at the start of turn 2 depending on who you sent to fight the chieftains, but they all need to be down by the end of this player phase. Any spare units you have can be put toward that effort if need be. In my case, I have plenty of hands on deck, so Laszlo rallies for our mage tanks in the east, and also for Forrest, who will appreciate Rally's skill in a moment.
Your battle is over. Good luck.
Don't die.
Nothing but citrus.
All right. We're in trouble.
Sorry.
Be careful.
After Corrin does his part for cleanup duty in the central hall, Azura sends him to block off part of the choke point at the western corridor. It doesn't matter whether he successfully kills this hero or not, just that he blocks them from getting to everyone else.
Stay with me.
Let's see how this goes.
Camilla equips her bronze axe and moves into position to help her brother choke the point. Again, she doesn't need to get any kills here, just to survive.
Let's make this fun. That was good for me.
Ophelia Dusk is with you.
Let's do this together.
Luminary uppercut. Bask in the glory.
Our staffer, in our case Nyx Forrest, silences the freeze maid. Making this cast more reliable was why he wanted Rally's skill earlier.
I guess I'll help.
Our boss killer needs her guard gauge to be full before Takami's first counterattack, so she charges it part way by killing the last Oni chieftain. Note the bronze weapon so she doesn't accidentally crit and lose out on guard points.
I can do this.
Takami's attack takes a big chunk out of her defenders at the choke points, but it's nothing they can't handle.
My apologies singing.
We can do this together. I'll protect you. No, no, no.
It's over.
Paladin Xander survives here guaranteed, but just barely. He needed HP plus 5 and 2 talismans to pull this off.
Good. Let's end this.
Before we do anything else this turn, Laszlo rallies for our boss killer and our lunge user, in this case Camilla. We lunge the general using a ranged weapon from due north to move him as close to the rest of our army as possible.
In like the night.
I'll crush them.
A unit of our choice swoops in to finish him off.
Strength is everything. I'll fight too.
We give our staffer a movement pair up here to maximize their range, even though Strategist Forrest with movement plus 1 doesn't really need it.
Adorable.
After parking a rescue user one space north of where the general once was, we ferry Azura down to him to send him even further to the south. We rescue from the space below this Master Ninja because rescue tries to bring the target the shortest distance possible. The best destination tile for that is blocked by the ninja, so rescue plops our boss killer down to forest left, exactly 8 spaces from Takumi.
I'm with you.
I thought about feeding Felicia another kill here for style points, but nah.
Looks yummy.
And at last, Valoria arrives to fulfill her final duty.
Ready? Too bad. That was close.
I want to thank everyone for the support my last video got. It really surprised me. If you enjoyed this clear, feel free to drop a like to help me out. I hope you're having a great holiday season, and I'll see you next year. Thanks for watching.